Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of Brainy Book Dragon. So today we're going to be talking about books that feel like a hug, right? The books that you can read on a cozy, rainy day that that you can go back to again and again, right? So I have 5 books that I'm going to mention today. Some of these are not surprises, and then there are probably a couple that you haven't heard of yet. So let's get started. So the first one, this is one of my all-time favorite books. And it's a great book for just about any age. It's not just for adults. I even gave it to my kid to read, told her over and over again, hey, you're going to love this book. Of course, like the tween that she is, she put it off for quite a while. And then finally my kid picked it up and could not put it down. Ended up reading this thing in like 2.5 days. This book is House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This was published at the end of 2020, like the perfect time where all of us needed this book. So the blurb on this says, a magic island, a dangerous task, a burning secret. Linus Baker leads a quiet, solitary life. At 40, he lives in a tiny house with a devious cat and his old records. As a caseworker at the department in charge of magical youth, he spends his days overseeing the well-being of children in government-sanctioned orphanages. When Linus is unexpectedly summoned by extremely upper management, he's given a curious and highly classified assignment: travel to Marseille's island orphanage where 6 dangerous children reside: a gnome, a sprite, a wyvern, an unidentifiable green blob, a were Pomeranian, and the Antichrist. Linus must set aside his fears and determine whether or not they're likely to bring about the end of days. But the children aren't the only secret the island keeps. Their caretaker is the charming and enigmatic Arthur Parnassus, who will do anything to keep his wards safe. As Arthur and Linus grow closer, long-held secrets are exposed, and Linus must make a choice: destroy a home or watch the world burn. An enchanting story masterfully told, The House in the Cerulean Sea is about the profound experience of discovering an unlikely family in an unexpected place and realizing that family is yours. Now, this story, the characters that are introduced in the story are absolutely amazing. The tone that this story has is just so cozy, and literally, I could read this book over and over. If you are considering annotating books, if you want to get into what a lot of us do of annotating and breaking down stories, this is actually a great book to start off with, just because so much of the information it's so easy to decipher the different kinds of information that's being given, as well as so cleanly stated. So you don't have to wonder about what the author is attempting to accomplish with different scenes and characters and, why the plot is the way that it is. The story is so clean. So I can only imagine what T.J. Klune did to prepare for this book, what the behind the scenes looks like, the character profiles, the setting profiles, the charting out of scenes, because everything is so nicely done in the story. It flows so nicely. And the end of the book the whole thing feels like just a giant hug. So very uplifting, very sweet. There are some, darker moments, obviously, but I cannot suggest this book enough. Definitely go out and read this. Now, House in the Cerulean Sea is about 416 pages. I got the paperback of this, and like I said, it's one of my all-time favorites. If you like that kind of writing style, he also has a few other books, and one of which is Under the Whispering Door. This one was published in September of 2021, and this one, again, is a very sweet story. This one is very cozy also because it takes place in a tea shop. So, again, just so many fun characters here. This one is more of a romance story than House in the Cerulean Sea. House in the Cerulean Sea is more about the kids and the situation that Linus finds himself in and kind of deciding, what kind of person he wants to be in general and more self-discovery. Under the Whispering Door still deals with a lot of self-discovery for the main character. However, this one is quintessentially more of a romance story. House in the Cerulean Sea, I mean, the most you get of romance, I think at the end, you get like hand holding and maybe a kiss. But I mean, really, that's it. Under the Whispering Door, there's a lot more tension in that area. So if you have anybody who is, a teenager or whatever, and you're kind of touchy around those subjects, then I would say stick to House on the Cerulean Sea. But again, Under the Whispering Door, very sweet story. And House on the Cerulean Sea, like I said, I gave it to my kid and my kid absolutely loved it. It's just so sweet. So for Under the Whispering Door, here is what the blurb says. Welcome to Charon's Crossing. The tea is hot, the scones are fresh, and the dead are just passing through. When a reaper comes to collect Wallace from his own funeral, Wallace begins to suspect he might be dead. And when Hugo, the owner of a peculiar tea shop, promises to help him cross over, Wallace decides he's definitely dead. But even in death, he's not ready to abandon the life he barely lived. So when Wallace is given 1 week to cross over, he sets about living a lifetime in 7 days. Hilarious, haunting, and kind, Under the Whispering Door is an uplifting story about a life spent at the office and a death spent building a home. So this is a very fun story. Our main character, obviously he dies. And this is really about Hugo and Wallace. So Hugo owns the tea shop. He also has a couple other people who work in the tea shop with him, but his purpose is kind of like the Reaper. He goes and gets the person whoever died and then leads them to a door on the top level of his tea shop, of his house. And that door makes whispering sounds. And so that's why you stand under the whispering door and then it takes you to the other side. So this is a really sweet story about, kind of someone falling in love with a reaper kind of thing. But in between that time, he stays in the tea shop until he's ready. So, all of the different situations that happen in the tea shop, the people that you meet, there is some very sad stuff that happens in this. And I guess trigger warning, there is the death of a child that is discussed. You don't see the death of the child, but there is some sad things in that reference. So if you're really sensitive to that, heads up. But other than that, a very sweet story. Definitely a good one. Okay, so let's go to a book that you may not have heard of. Okay, so there's a book called Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, Wimbrell House. And this is the first of 2 books. And so it's a duology. It is written by Charlie N. Holmberg. I read the paperback, which is 347 pages. So not too long, a nice, easy kind of read. Very enjoyable. The tone in this book is just so calm. There's so much in this that just has a nice laid back feel to it. Even when the tension is built, it's not like scary. You're not going to be on the edge of your seat for a lot of this. It is more laid back. With the time frame that it's in, I guess it also kind of makes it feel a little more chill. So here is what the blurb says. A house of haunted history and ill temper. Make yourself at home in this beguiling novel of love, magic, and danger by Amazon charts and Wall Street Journal best-selling author Charlie N. Holmberg. Rhode Island, 1846. Estranged from his family, writer Merritt Fernsby is surprised when he inherits a remote estate in the Narragansett Bay. I don't know how to say that, let's be honest. Though the property has been uninhabited for more than a century, Merritt is ready to call it home until he realizes he has no choice. With its doors slamming shut and locking behind him, Wimbrell House is not about to let Merritt leave, ever. Huldah Larkin of the Boston Institute for the Keeping of Enchanted Rooms has been trained in taming such structures in order to preserve their historical and magical significance. She understands the dangers of bespelled homes given to tantrums. She advises that it's in Merritt's best interest to make Wimbrell House their ally. To do that, she'll need to move in too. You can see where this is going. Prepared as she is with the augury, a set of magic tools, and a new staff trained in the uncanny, Huldah's work still proves unexpectedly difficult. She and Merritt grow closer as the investigation progresses, but the house's secrets run deeper than they anticipated, and the sentient walls aren't their only concern. Something outside is coming for the enchantments of Wimbrel House, and it could be more dangerous than what rattles within. So this was actually a very cool story. You get different points of view, and I really liked being able to learn the magic system as it's presented in the story as well. That was really enjoyable. The house itself, again, kind of acts like a character just because it is haunted, which was really refreshing to see. There is, like I said, a second book in this series. It is called Heir of Uncertain Magic. Again, Wimbrel House. So I'm assuming that we're going to get more from this author, maybe from this series. I see that the author has another book. Let's see, another duology actually called Spellbreaker and Spellmaker. And then she has The Paper Magician. So, I mean, this author has several different books written in that same kind of time period. I don't know if they have the same tone because I just haven't read them yet. But after reading Keeper of Enchanted Rooms, I definitely want to read Heir of Uncertain Magic. It just looks great. And I really liked how she set up the first book. It does stand alone on its own, but you can also see where it can lead into book 2, which is really nice. So yeah, I mean, if it's a rainy day, this is the perfect read. It is great. And you want something just with like a little soft, ghost story, this is perfect. All right, so we're going to go to a book that a lot of people have been talking about, and for good reason. This book is called Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Now, Travis actually has another book coming out soon. It is in conjunction with Legends and Lattes. I believe it's called Bookends and Bone Dust, which will be coming out later this year. But this was a very fun book. I luckily picked it up before a lot of other people did. So, I mean, like I've loved this for a while. I got it on Kindle Unlimited way back early last year or something, and I blew through this book. So much fun, so sweet. I'm obviously a big fan of coffee. And yeah, the characters are very fun. And here's the other thing too. So there is relationship tension that happens in this book, but it's really, really light. And for a while, I wasn't even sure I was reading it correctly there. I thought maybe I was reading into it too much. I mean, you can pretty much gloss over it until almost the last chapter. So again, if you're not really looking for a romance, but just something nice and sweet, this is perfect. It's so fun. So here is the blurb for Legends and Lattes. After a lifetime of bounties and bloodshed, Viv is hanging up her sword for the last time. The battle-weary orc aims to start fresh, opening the first ever coffee shop in the city of Thune. But old and new rivals stand in the way of success, not to mention the fact that no one has the faintest idea what coffee actually is. If Viv wants to put the blade behind her and make her plans a reality, she won't be able to go it alone. But the true magic rewards of the uncharted path are the travelers you meet along the way. And whether drawn together by ancient magic, flaky pastry, or a freshly brewed cup, they may become partners, family, and something deeper than she ever could have dreamed. You get a little bit of information there, but the types of characters you meet in Legends and Lattes, I really like the fact that the author made it so that you had several different species of characters. They're not all the same, which is very reminiscent of House in the Cerulean Sea. Now, Legends and Lattes is only 304 pages. So again, not really big, a nice, enjoyable book. You can pretty much read it in a weekend, okay? It just flows so nicely, and learning all of the different fun creatures and characters that are throughout the book is a lot of fun too. I actually really wish that there were some recipes at the end of the book, because there is a character who makes apparently some amazing pastries. And I just wish that there was a cookbook for this because it seems so perfect as a companion. But I digress. One of my fun favorite books that I just very chill, love, and enjoy. One of those books that I wish I could almost live out, right? Just because of how it has such a nice happy ending, right? So this is called The Bookish Life of Nina Hill, and this is written by Abby Waxman. This book is 352 pages, so again, not too long. But if you are a very bookish person, if you just love literature, if you just like books and the nerd life, right? Like if you like geeking out over things, this is a great book for you. And it has a great ending. I love it. So it's where you get to live out your bookish dreams. Let's just say that. Okay. All right. So the blurb on the back says, the only child of a single mother, Nina has her life just as she wants it. A job in a bookstore, a kick-butt trivia team, a world-class planner, and a cat named Phil. If she sometimes suspects there might be more to life than reading, she just shrugs and picks up a new book. When the father Nina never knew existed suddenly dies, leaving behind innumerable sisters, brothers, nieces, and nephews, Nina is horrified. They all live close by. They're all, or mostly all, excited to meet her. She'll have to speak to strangers. It's a disaster. And if it wasn't enough, Tom, her trivia nemesis, has turned out to be cute, funny, and deeply interested in getting to know her. Doesn't he realize what a terrible idea this is? Nina considers her options. 1, completely change her name and appearance. 2, drastic, plus she likes her hair. 2, flee to a deserted island. Hard pass, C, coffee. 3, hide in a corner of her apartment and rock back and forth. Already doing it. It's time for Nina to come out of her comfortable shell, but she isn't convinced real life could ever live up to the fiction. It's going to take a brand new family, a persistent suitor, and the combined effects of ice cream and trivia to make her turn her own fresh page. So this was actually a really fun book also because you get a look into the way that Nina's head works. Between some of the chapters, you get books out of the character's planner. So you get to see what all she writes on there and everything. It was just kind of a nice breakup between the chapters to kind of change the tone, to also make you feel more connected to the character because you kind of get to see behind that veil, which was really nice. It's always enjoyable when we get to see a little bit of behind the scenes kind of stuff for characters in books. So that was a lot of fun too. If you've ever dreamed of opening your own bookstore, this is definitely one that I would read just because it has a really nice, fun take on the story. As an honorable mention, I will talk about The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Now, the only reason I say that this is an honorable mention and it's not one that I, specifically brought up for this video is because I read this for a bookstore book club. And the best way that I can describe it is that it is a watered down, witchy version of House in the Cerulean Sea. There really is no better way to explain it than that. And a friend of mine read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches before reading House in the Cerulean Sea. And she really liked this book. She was like, it's so much fun. It's amazing. And I was like, just wait until you read House in the Cerulean Sea. And then she did. And then she got it. And she even told me, House in the Cerulean Sea was amazing. Like I said, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, it's a great, fun story. It's very lighthearted. It is 336 pages by Sangu Mandana. But if you're looking for one that just takes this one to a different level, go ahead and read House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. But at least that'll give you an option. If you haven't read House in the Cerulean Sea, then go ahead and read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. You will probably like it a lot. And then go and read House in the Cerulean Sea, and you will just enjoy it that much more. So that is all that we have for this episode of Brainy Book Dragon. Let me know what your cozy read suggestions are down in the comments below, and leave an orange heart if you got this far. I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. Have a great time reading.